Wholesalers, it's Rob Short, Wholesaler Masterminds, and you may be thinking to yourself, Rob, you're thinking, what do you have besides this amazing podcast? And I'm so glad you asked. Wholesaler Masterminds has an assortment of product and services all designed around the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. As an example, we have coaching services designed to help you power wash your practice, whether you have 2 years or 22 years. We'll offer you speaking live engagements at divisional or national sales meetings. Our scheduling service has dedicated professionals trained in the art of getting you more appointments, Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers. Our Speakers Bureau brings you amazing speakers and processes to get better return on investment out of those speakers. And finally, our partnership, our newest partnership with Allego. If you have Allego and want to get the Wholesaler Masterminds channel on your Allego platform, please let us know. Wholesaler Masterminds, happy to bring you this podcast and so much more. Wholesaler Masterminds, the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. If you've ever been to Manhattan, I think one of the best places on earth is to visit 575757th. No, I didn't stutter, 575757th. That is the address of the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. For anyone that's listening that used to work with me at Oppenheimer Funds, you may know that is where I frequented, especially with my internal partners, and where I also took clients when we had due diligence meetings. And one of the reasons I went there was because of a server by the name of Kim. See, Kim understood what creating an amazing experience was when I went there. And if it was busy and the quote-unquote velvet rope was up, I simply walked past it, tapped Kim on the shoulder. She gave me a warm smile, a big hug. She'd rip a reserve sign off a table, even though I hadn't reserved it, and sit me down. I remember one time, myself and 7 financial advisors came from a Broadway show, and we all went to 5757 afterwards. And unaided, she simply said, well, I put in an order of each one of our desserts for the table to share. What can I get you to drink? And to this day, those advisors, now 20 years removed, 25 years removed, still talk about what happened at 575757th at the Four Seasons with Kim. We're going to talk about experience today. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Dennis Moseley-Williams is an internationally known financial services consultant who has helped thousands of financial professionals over the last 20 years innovate within their businesses. As an experience economy specialist, his primary goal and passion is to help entrepreneurs create businesses that provide engaging client and customer experiences. It's through these memorable interactions that customers are transformed by what your business offers, viewing your company as one that reflects authenticity, trust, and steady growth because your clients can't stop recommending you to others. Dennis Moseley-Williams, welcome to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show.
Hey, I'm delighted to be here, Rob. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure indeed. So I reminisce about that story about Kim at 575757th at the Four Seasons so fondly. Let's talk about experience. It certainly, you state, is the experience economy. One could argue that providing clients with and customers with a satisfactory and overwhelmingly enjoyable experience has always been part of the customer service journey. But I know you're the expert on it, and I am not. So when you say experience economy, let's start to unpack that. What's different today? Why is it the experience economy today and it wasn't 20 years ago? Please embellish for us. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, the experience economy specifically refers to a change in the very fabric of the modern economy, where selling goods and services is no longer enough. That what customers now want and value are experiences. And this is part of a larger sort of evolution of the economy that is known in experience economy as the progression of economic value, which was first done by Joe Pine, one of the co-authors of the book, and it's been duplicated this example over and over again, where basically Joe walks you through the progression of economic value from commodities through to goods and to services. And what's changed, I suppose, is the commoditization of goods and services. Services specifically in the financial services industry used to cost several $100s, let's say 25 years ago, to trade a block of shares. And now, because of the internet, because of technology, you can, in the United States anyway, you can do a trade for as low as $3. So what's happened is the shift in the economy is what clients are looking for, what customers are looking for, is an experience, and an experience is not service. It's really important that people understand that the experience is a separate economic offering. And the difference in experience economy is businesses, think of wholesalers working on service or any businesses working on service. Service is all about creating convenience for the client, saving them time and money. But experience is completely opposite. Experience is about creating time well spent and ultimately leading to a memory. And the third sort of piece of the experience economy is that the customer, him or herself, is the product. So experiences are different from services. It's not about convenience. Experience isn't about convenience and saving time. It's about creating time well spent and memory. And the last piece is that the customer is the product. When I listen to your story about Kim at 57, certainly you referenced a couple of times, you still remember it, that those advisors from 25 years ago, they remember it, they keep bringing it up. But I was listing some other details, where you were coming from and where you were going to. You had been, vis-a-vis experience economy, spending a considerable amount of time with those clients, time well spent, ultimately for transformation.
Let me ask you a question about this. So has the further evolution, has the further interpretation or dissection of the experience economy been influenced by the generations? And what I mean by that is, I certainly read, because I'm not a millennial, I certainly read about, for instance, millennials' spending patterns. And millennials are far more apt to spend dollars on experiences versus tangible goods. How much of the experience economy is driven by changes in the generations, and how much is driven, say, by technology?
I'm going to say equal. They're both huge factors. I mean, you could even argue we are our technology, right? Do we make the technology, or does the technology make us? But as you have said, specifically millennials, but even all of us, there is a tremendous trend towards experience. Millennials, yes, absolutely. And look at the technology of sharing cars and Airbnb and all these. The internet has connected us on so easily on so many different platforms that's also led. There's more availability for experience, and even experiences in some cases, such as Airbnb. It's a good example of an experience also becoming commoditized, right? Even Airbnb gets cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah. I want to pick apart this third item for just a moment, and that is customer is product. Tell me, it feels like, and I'm sure there's more depth there than I'm allowing credit for, if you will, creating time well spent feels like I can get my head around it, and creating memories I feel like I can get my head around. Customer is the product seems a little more elusive to me. Tell me more about that, please.
Okay. I want to start by saying this. Every person listening today should read the book, The Experience Economy, because one of the dangers of the experience economy is that we all think that we understand what it is. And even more dangerous, we think it's very simple. We think it's a simple idea that what people really, really like is a great experience. And I almost say experience in air quotes, because we use service and experience almost as synonyms. So if you look at the heart of an experience, at the experience economy, what you will find are two things. You will find generosity and you will find authenticity. So there has to be you're using the goods, the investments, the goods as props, as we say in experience economy. You use the goods as props, you use the service as a stage, and ultimately what you're working to do is change the customer. You're looking to change them from one thing into another, an almost guided transformation. So if I were to say, like, I work with a wholesaler, and what he does for his advisors, this is not service, this is experience. What he believes in, the truth that he believes he uses his wholesaler position to teach is that most advisors don't know how to run a business, that that's their biggest constraint. Their struggle is practice management, business development, strategy, etc. He hosts a series of luncheons where he doesn't bring in a speaker. He does bring in a speaker, but he doesn't hire a speaker. He literally chooses entrepreneurs that he knows in his city who have businesses that he admires. And he invites them to come and speak to small groups of advisors in small sort of hole-in-the-wall locations. These are almost part of his experience is how low-key it is. This is sort of truly part of the feeling of it. And what he's working on with the client, he's not talking about his mutual funds, investments, he's not talking about the market. He is specifically turning them, guiding this transformation, facilitating this perfect experience at the right time. And he's turning them from people who have a job into people who own a business. You are using your position, your permission to speak to the advisor, and your opportunity with them to do the hard work. And the hard work these days, vis-a-vis experience, is not telling people the facts on your products, because they can find that information out really easily. You have to know it, and you should be able to answer these questions and know your competitors' products. You should be informed. This is a given. But the experience that this person that I'm telling you about provides is directed specifically at changing the client. It's not about it's about making them the best version of themselves. That's what experience is about.
I want to drill down further on that because I'm connecting two dots. So we spend a lot of time in wholesaler masterminds talking about wholesalers creating their PVP, their peerless value proposition. It's the brand of the wholesaler. It stands proudly next to the brand of the product. And what one of the things you just spoke about rings very loudly for me, and that is, if your peerless value proposition revolved around business development of the advisor and how you were able to do that in this unique fashion. It's the unique fashion that I want to talk about and relate it back to your experience economy thoughts and concepts. Give me some other ideas about ways in which you have either directed or witnessed wholesalers building out they're bringing to life the experience economy concepts that you speak to. So let's start to identify concretely what this is through some examples, please.
Sure. Okay. This will be the only time I'm going to get even a little tiny bit technical. Mm-hmm. There are 4 elements to an experience. An experience can be entertaining, like watching a movie. It can be educational, sitting in a classroom, such as sitting in a classroom. It can be escapist, such as being on a vacation, going to a country, coming to visit me in Canada. And it can also be aesthetic, and that would be Rob sitting in the botanical gardens or just sitting there perched on a cliff looking at the ocean, completely content to sit there and just take it all in. Okay, so those are the 4: entertainment, education, escapism, and aesthetic. Okay? The most memorable experiences where we move, and memorability is when we combine realms. So if I said to you, here's a term everyone knows, edutainment. Edutainment is obviously a blending of education and entertainment, otherwise known as Shark Week. So here is a wholesaler example, or Dennis and Rob have this fantastic podcast, and we do a whole bunch of them until we really establish a rapport. and then people tune into the podcast, and sometimes there's some humor and some really good banter. It elevates the product. So let's use this example of a wholesaler and what he helped. This is his first one. He helped a client do an event. So typically the typical client event is very education focused, right? We're teaching them and we're telling them information. So we applied experience economy. We used all 4 realms: education, entertainment, escapism, aesthetic. This is what we did. We had everyone come into the room. They attended a retirement symposium called The Art of Retirement. Most advisors would host an event on retirement income planning, which, while important, and I joke about this sometimes in my talks, that, it doesn't really take much more than a minute to explain to somebody that if they run out of money, their retirement is going to not be as entertaining or enjoyable as it could be. You can't talk about that for an hour. So this is how we changed it. Everyone walks into the room. They're invited to the Art of Retirement. When they arrive, around the outside of the room are canvases on easels. Okay? Couples are divided, husbands and wives. Everyone there receives their own canvas. They're all set around. They're all instructed to paint. They have to paint their inspiring vision of their retirement. Meanwhile, the advisor and the wholesaler, and I think there might have been one other speaker that was from outside of the business, sort of a health and wellness sort of mental coach, stood in the middle of the room and they lectured, let's say. They shared thoughts on meaning and purpose, etc. At the end of the evening, so everybody's painting the retirement. Instead of talking about numbers and charts, they're really getting down to, if you will, the why of retirement and your purpose and identity and all this wonderful stuff. At the end, they turn around their works of art and they share it with the room. These are obviously amateur painters here. And they share with each other what they created, what their insights were, and they have this massive discussion. So says the wholesaler, Dennis, I'm telling you, there were people in tears. Okay? And I said, oh yeah. He goes, like, communication breakthroughs. I had no idea this is what you were trying to tell me, et cetera, et cetera. Now, go be those clients that are attending that. Okay? They have had an experience. It's transformational. It touches on all of the elements of experience. They leave with a painting with memorabilia, but from the advisor's standpoint, they also leave with a story to tell, an experience to share. And as we discussed a minute ago, people are very interested in experiences. They can relate with them. And from the wholesaler's standpoint, he looks like a hero because he helps somebody make a true connection and a breakthrough and really helps someone. The exact same wholesaler takes a group of advisors to an escape house. Do you know what an escape house is?
I do not.
You do? I'm sorry?
Do not.
Okay, so you go and it's a puzzle, and you go with a group of people, and you have to solve the mystery to escape out of this house.
Okay.
There's art and codes, and it's like a real collaborative thing. The advisor takes the wholesaler takes the advisors. They solve it. They have a great time. They walk 2 doors down to a pub. They sit down, and when they're having a beer to wrap up the night, he says, if we went back into that escape house, we could solve the puzzle in about 30 seconds because we know where all the code, like we've cracked the puzzle. They say, yeah. He says, but the interesting point is that all of the information was right there in front of us this whole time. We just didn't know how to organize it to solve the puzzle. He says, yeah. He says, that's what I see my role is for you. That's what I do. I solve puzzles. I interpret information. I guide you, et cetera, et cetera. They say, oh, wonderful night. Great point. Thank you. Later, he follows up with each one and says, you should do the exact same event with your clients, and I'll be there. We'll take them to the exact same restaurant when we're done. We'll keep our costs down and everything. And we're going to sit down and you're going to explain to your clients how you're an interpreter of information. You're a guide to help them solve these puzzles, etc. Time well spent where people don't want the time to end, that leads to meaning, memory, and transformation.
So let me ask you a question around this. So the thing I want to fill in is, and I love all this. It's so many things that we strongly believe in at Wholesaler Masterminds. And I'm curious, though, short of seeing you, and hopefully lots of folks have and will continue to see you because I know you speak actively and busily, where do I get some like the creative juice for this? In other words, for as long as wholesaling has been wholesaling, the retirement income seminar you just spoke about would be the typical retirement income seminar, and there'd be lovely pots of coffee and delicious Danish, and there'd be a fine PowerPoint presentation. Now you've taken it, you've 10x'd it. So how, if I'm a wholesaler, especially if I'm thinking I'm not as creative, and by the way, if you're thinking about how you might get more creative, go look at this particular series in the 300 series Wholesalers. Find Scott Shellstrom. He'll talk to you more about how to be creative. We did a podcast on it. But how do I find myself being more creative to be able to conjure up the idea that I'm going to bring in easels and have people paint and have a health and wellness coach in the middle of the room, and then we're always, we're going to share an emotional moment? That's a huge stretch for most wholesalers, for most people, period. Never mind wholesalers, sales professionals. How do I get there?
Okay. So that's $1 million question, and here's the encapsulated, hopefully $1 million answer. I said a few minutes ago, at the heart of the experience economy, you're going to find two things. One is generosity, a desire to share, a desire to help others. And that's true in anybody in sales. That's true. You'll find generosity. Salespeople are giving, loving people, generally speaking. The next thing I said you'd find in there is authenticity. Now this, how I phrase it, is this. It has to be real to you. So if someone listening to the podcast today says, oh my gosh, that retirement, the art of retirement, what a brilliant idea. I love that idea. I got just the guy that would want to do that. I'm going to phone that guy right now. If you feel that way about an idea like that, then by all means, take it and run with it and go change the world. If you're someone else listening right now thinking, that's the hokiest idea I've ever heard, but I can appreciate why it would work, I'm going to do it, I'm going to ask you not to. Don't do that. You cannot fake authenticity. It has to be real. So here is where it comes from. It comes from inside. Precisely why it is valuable, Rob, is because I can't tell someone how to do it. Everything about wholesaling up to this minute, let's say, somebody has given someone else a manual and said, do it this way. Follow this, do it this way. But what's happened is the products and tragically the people have become commoditized. So now we need this next step. We've got to switch with the progression of economic value. We've got great goods. We've got great stuff. We've got great products. Use the goods as the props. Use the service as the stage. The experience is what? And this is how I choose to position it. The experience is the secret that you know that you're willing to use your business to share. A secret that you know that you're willing to use your business to share. You can't go find an idea. I can't give you the idea. It's inside, and it's right there. The challenge is between the wholesaler and the creativity, okay, is resistance and a reluctance to do something. It's no more complicated than this. The reluctance to do something that's a little different, that might feel a little dangerous.
Yeah, it's hard to sometimes take the risk. And to your point, Dennis, I mean, wholesalers, so Dennis, you may or may not be familiar with the other thing that we bang our drum on every single day, which is your ability to stand out from the crowd, to stand out from the sea of sameness, to increase your MQ, your memorability quotient. And the only way you're going to do that is by taking calculated risks and doing things that are unexpected and off the mainstream. And that's why, this idea that you shared and the affiliated concepts beneath it are so gosh darn attractive. Wholesalers, if you want to know more about Dennis Moseley-Williams, Dennis, where should they tune into to find out more about you?
Please just visit our website and subscribe to our blog. It's on the experience economy and entrepreneurship and doing more work that matters. And you can find that at Moseley-Williams.com. Moseley Williams.com.
Moseley-Williams.com, and wholesalers, if you're interested in having Dennis out to an event with your financial advisors or perhaps for your firm, Wholesaler Masterminds Speakers Bureau can accommodate that. Give us a holler, info@wholesalermasterminds.com. Dennis Moseley-Williams, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoyed it.
Wholesalers will be back next time for another episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.